What's up, folks? Recording another best ball video for you. Doing the best ball mania again. I recently have been looking into buying a condo. That's been a bit of a pain in the ass so far. Looked at a place today and it had no windows that open. Like the windows were built into the side of the building, recessed, and it had no way to get natural airflow. Like, why would anyone create such a place? But getting back to NFL and best ball stuff, we're on the turn here with pick 12, so we are probably going to end up with Antonio Gibson on this build. He's a guy I've been really, really trying to get more and more ownership on. I have read the McKissick once every down work stuff, and it's not really scaring me away. I just want shares of Gibson because I feel like he, with his pass catching upside, along with just like his rushing ability, I mean, I feel like he's a guy that can jump into the top five. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with being like a Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara type guy. Do you see Kelsey and Tyreek going off at the 1-3 and the 1-4? So I am going to suspect this draft will probably lean a little bit more towards 0 RB drafters, which makes me want to take a wide receiver at the turn with Gibson. Obviously, we could choose like someone like Cam Akers over Gibson if he falls. So we're not like locked into Gibson, but that is someone I'm looking for more ownership on. I have some interest in DeAndre Hopkins at the turn, who I slightly prefer to Devontae Adams. I have a little interest in Devontae Adams if Hopkins happens to be off the board, or Calvin Ridley if both go off the board. I thought Calvin Ridley had the best odds to have the most receiving yards in the NFL this year. I thought that was a little not crazy or anything, but I just wouldn't have suspected him to have the best odds. I would have expected him to, be in the top 5 or so. So we're rolling here. We will have a shot at a running back that probably has more upside than Gibson. Between Barkley, Akers, and Taylor. I need to check something with Akers. I don't know if I've done an Akers-Gibson pairing yet. That could put us kind of far behind the 8 ball, but I am going to give it a shot because I don't think that I've done it yet. The only problem with that is I also really want to get some Swift ownership. All right, I'm going to let a Gibson share go here. Take Akers and Hopkins. I don't want to close the door to being able to take Swift at the last pick of the 3rd round because I don't have a single share of Swift in Best Ball Mania outside of, I think we got one the other day. Yeah, we got one to pair with McCaffrey. But I mean, I have tons and tons of Swift shares, but they were all like in the puppy and just for whatever reason not in Best Ball Mania. And now I have one in Best Ball Mania, and I definitely want another one. So I just didn't want to fall that far behind at wide receiver. Do I think taking Gibson over Akers would be reasonable? Yes, but you're going to be able to get Gibson shares. I'm still going to do 9 or 10 more of these drafts. I believe 9. So, I don't know. That was kind of an interesting one. Feel pretty good about starting off here. If Kyler falls to the 5-6 turn, we can pair him with Hopkins. If not, he doesn't fall that far, which he oftentimes does not, then we're not going to have him as an option. So I'm definitely not taking him at the 3-4 turn. 3-4 turn will probably be something like 2 wide receivers, or Swift and a wide receiver, or maybe J.K. Dobbins. This is why I just have a hard time taking Gibson over Akers, even though I like them kind of similarly. As it's pretty easy to get Gibson shares when you're down in the middle of round 2, and kind of hard to get Akers shares when you're down there. I've seen Akers fall down there, but it's just not. Most drafts, Gibson falls down there. Joe Mixon. No, thank you. Do have a couple shares of Joe Mixon I took when he fell deep into the 210, 211 range, and those are going to be probably the only way I ever take him. I think even at this point, even if he is in that range, I'm probably not taking him. I just like the other players better. I'm a pretty hard anti-Mixon person, though. So, if you really like him, I would say just go ahead and keep taking him, because we all are right and wrong a decent amount about stuff. I just can't do it at this point. If it was, I just don't believe that the offensive line is really going to be that much better. I mean, Riley Reif is just okay. It's definitely not any sort of special offensive lineman that they've added there. I think their second round pick was an interior offensive lineman, but probably not a guy that's going to move the needle too much. Their center's going to be out, I think, for most of the season because he tore his ACL week 17. Their other guard spot's weak. Jonah Williams, we're not even sure is what he was supposed to be yet. I mean, I definitely haven't given up on him. He could definitely still be really, really good, but you just don't know. He could just be average. That's what he's been so far. He was injured and then average. So, yeah, I mean, this is his second non-injured year. He could take a massive step forward and become the elite offensive lineman we thought he would be, but he also may not. So, definitely looks like this draft is going to lean towards 0 RB drafters, which is not necessarily a terrible thing for us. Really makes me happy that I went with Hopkins to go with Akers and not Gibson to go with Akers. Clyde at the 3-5. Jeez, my phone is exploding. No real big news in the NFL recently. There's not much to talk about there. There's still the Aaron Rodgers stuff going around and whatnot. So the only way we're taking a running back at the turn is if it's Dobbins or Swift, I believe. We could consider David Montgomery, but I'd rather get him at a little bit of a cheaper price than the turn picks. Looks like we're going to be in a bit of a tough spot as far as our options go. I would expect the next 2 picks to be Robinson and J.K. Dobbins, and then that kind of stinks. Might go double. Well, I guess we won't be going double Rams receiver. Okay, so we're going to take Dobbins because he made it down to us. Dobbins and Swift are guys I just like more than the consensus. Now, do we want to take Robert Woods, Godwin, or Cooper Kupp? I think we'll just take Robert Woods. Just an ADP thing. I don't really get Robert Woods a ton because his price is kind of high. So not too bad of a start to this team. I definitely don't think you have to take J.K. Dobbins there, but I am. But I am really high on him. So Swift and Dobbins to me, when I have a chance to get them, is my RB2, and I get to start 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, or something of that nature. Pretty excited to get those 2 guys. Montgomery's a guy I've been trying to get more ownership on, but I'm more fine just passing him for a wide receiver. So I don't think, obviously last year he did have the chance to be a top 5 running back, but kind of a lot had to happen right for that to happen. Mahomes went off. Let's see if he went to a stacked player. Nope. This guy starting off Saquon, Chubb, Carson, Mahomes. He's probably going to be in a lot of trouble at wide receiver. So lately I've been off I'm just not taking Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson if the top quarterbacks are still on the board. Top quarterbacks, I mean, being like Kyler, Dak, obviously Lamar, Josh Allen, Mahomes. I think taking tight ends in that tier over the top five-ish quarterbacks is a pretty big mistake. Because tight ends in that tier really don't offer you any sort of elite production. Like, you're just trying to lose less at tight end than the other people that are also going to be losing at tight end to the top three drafters. I'd rather come at it with, three later options than get into those guys. It is a little different if all those top QBs are off the board. Because then, you're trying to fill one of the two onesie positions, which makes more sense to me. But if you're choosing, between Kyle Pitts and Josh Allen, it's kind of ridiculous to be taking Kyle Pitts. Just, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make sense from a win percentage perspective. It doesn't make sense from a raw point ceiling perspective. I don't get it. Now, have I done it? Yes, because I really hadn't thought that process 100% through earlier in the season. So I have done it before. But I don't think I'll be doing it anymore. I think I've literally gotten 40 text messages since I started this video. Odell Beckham at the 5-4. No, thank you. RB's nothing I'm super interested in. I don't really hate, an ETN or a Javonte Williams. But I also don't love them. Getting pretty thin on wide receivers that aren't terrible values in this portion of the draft. Oh, Al Smissel is in our draft. Nice. Seems like with the wide receivers that are on the board, it would be nigh impossible for us to end up with two of them. So there just aren't very many good ones. I would much rather take an Andrews or Hawkinson than some of these wide receivers that we would be taking if we took two. I have my eye on Kyler and Dak. After that, kind of between the tight ends and the wide receivers. We could go two tight end and two quarterback if we get one of these quarterbacks and one of those tight ends, which would be nice. Would be leaving us a little weak at wide receiver, so definitely going to take Kyler. So let's take a look at what we got here. I do like Courtland Sutton quite a bit. Do I like him more than Andrews and Hawkinson? All right, so I'm going to do something I haven't been doing a ton here. I have a lot less Hawkinson than I do Andrews, so I'm just going to take Hawkinson here. Don't love it. I don't love only having two wide receivers going into the next go around. I think that it's going to look pretty ugly at wide receiver, but I'm not certain that it's going to look much more ugly than it does now. Just because I think we've hit a tier where how much more do I like Courtland Sutton than Juju? I like him more, but don't like him tons more. How much more do I like Courtland Sutton than Brandon Cooks? I like him more, but not the difference between Hawkinson and Fant. I'd much rather have Hawkinson. even though I like Fant quite a bit, and he's a guy I am comfortable just praying hits his upside and that we only take two tight ends with Fant. But the 2v2 trade there, I felt like, Hawkinson and wide receiver we get at the turn is better than in round, a few rounds from now, is better than like Fant and Cortland Sutton or Higbee and Cortland Sutton. Could be wrong there. I also have below 8% Hawkinson, and Hawkinson, does have quite a bit of upside. So if I was rocking 12% TJ Hawkinson, probably go wide receiver there. Ooh. Al's team's looking all right. Don't really like Mike Davis, but it's not terrible or anything. It does just seem like one of those teams that's like perfectly fine, but probably doesn't really have enough like monster upside to win. I wonder what the Dak Prescott team looks like. No stack pieces for Dak Prescott. That's kind of a bummer for that guy. I would still take him. I mean, like, you just gotta take these elite quarterbacks and late stack them when they're, values. You just can't be giving them up. So we're probably only going to take one more quarterback and one more tight end, and we're not going to be taking either of them anytime soon. So I think we just don't even need to look at that position for the next two go-rounds, maybe longer. We do have Cam Akers and Robert Woods, which could make Matthew Stafford somewhat interesting, but I don't think we want to but I don't think we want to use a pick on Matt Stafford as early as would be necessary to get him. So we still got 10 picks to tell us. We'll see how destroyed wide receiver is. When we are up again, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty destroyed since it looks like we got like 4 or 5 0 wide receiver drafters. 0 RB drafters. I'm sort of just like hate the Denver passing game situation. Feels like it can't win, right? Unless Aaron Rodgers goes there. Like, your one option is Drew Lock, who's absolutely an abomination, and your other option is a guy that has like absolutely zero upside to do anything. So it's kind of shitty. Pretty okay with somebody down, in the Brandon Cooks, Michael Pittman area. Or, I like Jalen Waddle quite a bit too. For our 2 picks. Fuller and Antonio Brown are guys I have pretty close. I definitely have a lot more Antonio Brown. Fuller's just been a guy I've been kind of trying to stay away from. I don't really trust him after the situation last year with the PEDs and his former health. On the other hand, like, it is best ball, and this is a guy with quite the ceiling, so I think I'll be looking to go 2 wide receivers. Could entertain a running back. Feel like we're still going to have like a reasonable option next round for running back 3. Keep in mind that we do not want to take Darrell Henderson and Gus Edwards, who are guys that I'm often in on. Juju going is pretty rough. So let's click off here. Definitely going to take Brandon Cooks. Is there anything we really want here? Could take Chase Edmonds to kind of go with Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins. Don't really like that. I'm just going to take Waddle. I think he has the most upside of these guys. Would it shock me if Waddle was the best rookie wide receiver for fantasy? Not really. I don't think he's anywhere near as good a player as Jamar Chase, but Chase is going to have Boyd and Higgins to contend with, and if Fuller does Fuller things where he's not playing or whatever, I think Devontae Parker is a giant pile of shit. So that would make Waddle quite the dude. Oof. Al getting the massive value on Russ Wilson. The only problem with taking Kyler and Dak is that Russ Wilson and Herbert can go pretty late. And even, Jalen Hurts goes pretty late too. Al was the one who took Will Fuller. So, liking our squad so far. So, yeah, when we made the Hawkinson pick, we did mention Cooks and Waddle were kind of guys that played out in my head. I could probably be picking the next round. I mentioned both those names, and they were. So, definitely like the Hawkinson pick now. So, I don't really hate those as our wide receivers 3 and 4. We got like a solid 1, 2, 3, 4 there. We can kind of like put like everything up again. So there's nothing we absolutely can't draft in the next round. I would really rather wait for tight end and quarterback later than this. But if some like insane screaming value were to be there when we pick, I would be interested in that. Don't really need to push running back too hard. They just seem to fall pretty far when everybody's going heavy wide receiver. And everybody is most definitely going heavy wide receiver. There's quite a few value wide receivers I like near the end of drafts, so for me, I'm a little bit more comfortable not picking my final 3 or so till the last rounds, whereas other people probably don't like doing that so much. We're probably going to have one of the most balanced teams in this draft, that's for sure, since we got a QB and a tight end that allow us to only take 2. We kind of have an option of going a 4 or 5 at running back because we got 2 very, very solid ones. So we're going to be able to build a ton of depth at wide receiver, and I don't think we're too bad off even with our wide receivers 1 through 4 here. We won't be quite as good as, our wide receiver 1 through 4 won't be quite as good as some of these guys going 0 RB, but we could have an advantage at all 3 of the other positions over them. And we also probably going to have more wide receivers than those guys. I think that the 0 RB guys that are drafting 5 straight wide receivers to start off and drafting 10 wide receivers are kind of doing their teams a disservice because it's going to be kind of hard for some of these guys to get in there. And at a certain point, if your wide receiver 8, 9, 10 are getting in to your lineup when you drafted wide receivers round 1 through 5, something's probably gone very, very badly. Right? It's that's your top 5 picks, and you got guys at the bottom end of the draft jumping into your scoring. It's probably not a great thing. probably means you had 2 injuries in your first 5 rounds and you're in trouble. Here's one of those guys. Let's take a look at his team. He did get Fant, so that's nice for him. He has 12 by week 7 wide receivers. That's interesting. So, like, yeah, he could just be taking like a 0 at like multiple spots week 7 here. I don't know. I don't love it. I think that team's pretty bad. I do get some of the like, let's not worry about bye weeks to a degree, but not to this degree. So we're getting close to up here. Let's take a look at each position individually. Matt Stafford's a little interesting to us because we have some stacking that can go with him. Running back is not bad, but we also can probably afford to wait around if we want to. What does wide receiver look like? Do like Henry Ruggs and Rondell Moore quite a bit. Let's take Ruggs. So, kind of do I want to take Rondell Moore as well? Yeah, then I'll have like the good stack pieces for Kyler and Hopkins and Rondell Moore. So I like it. Like, how much worse off at wide receiver are we now than the 0 RB team? We ain't much worse, right? We got Hopkins, Woods, Cooks, Waddle, Ruggs, Rondell Moore. We can definitely fight at the wide receiver position against the 0 RB teams, whereas we're bringing Cam Akers and Dobbins to the table. We're bringing Kyler at QB and Hawkinson at tight end. So I like how this team looks quite a bit. Next round, we'll probably be looking at a situation at running back where we're going to want one. Unless it gets like real dire. But we do have the option, we're only going to go 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks. So if we want to, we can go 5 running backs. It's going to kind of depend on what our next running back looks like. Like, we're not locked into where we have to take one next round. But I just have a feeling that the values are going to be there because everyone's shitting themselves trying to get wide receivers at this point, looking at the board. And they're going. Nice thing about Ruggs is he opens up that Carr stack late, which is a beautiful stack. I believe like Carr and Zach Wilson have incredible matchups week 12. Which is Kyler's bye week and also Patrick Mahomes' bye week. Yeah, Carr plays against the Cowboys week 12, and Zach Wilson plays against the Texans. So I do kind of like the way Carr and Zach Wilson pair with Mahomes and Kyler. Definitely have like high chances of spike weeks with those 2 guys. So I have a feeling we'll end up with Carr in this draft, but we'll kind of see. Still 13 picks away. The RBs are starting to go off. I'm like fine ending up with like a Melvin Gordon as my running back 3, and nobody's taking Melvin Gordon but me, so. Naheem Hines is like, whatever, as a running back 3. Even like a Devin Singletary doesn't like sicken me as an RB3, but you're gonna have to take 5 when you're doing that. Pollard off the board. It's unfortunate that we have kind of Akers and Dobbins here just because Edwards and Henderson tend to be, I feel like, the best values in that backup plus role that can spike for you, and we can't take either of them in this build. So it's kind of shitty. I don't like that. I don't understand why Al would take a second quarterback when he has Russ Wilson, and then like it's a guy with the same bye week. I don't like that. I mean, I guess he wants to stack with Mike Evans, but I would just wait. That's nice. Glad to see Gus Edwards go off the board since he's not a guy that we want. One of two running backs I'm hoping makes it to us. Oh, that's so nice too. Darrell Henderson off the board. Thank you. All right, we're going to get one of the two running backs I was hoping would make it to us. It was either Zach Moss or Melvin Gordon. Zach Moss goes off the board, so a pretty easy pick for Melvin Gordon here. No like glaring values there. Think we can right around there. Take Paris Campbell. Probably don't need to take another quarterback for a while. I am going to probably lean towards 5 running backs in this build. I think when it comes back around to us, I'm going to have interest in taking Alex Madison, who like doesn't really do much of anything unless, Cook is hurt. So I would kind of like to back him up with like a Jerick McKinnon or Ty Johnson type pass catching running back in the later rounds. Didn't take Christian Kirk there because I'm not really super interested in 3 pass catchers for Kyler Murray. I don't like the super stacks, especially when you're looking at week 17. When your team's stacking for DFS, you don't really want 3 targets for a quarterback. People just like don't really do that when they're stacking because it becomes like a negative towards your win percentage. And let's not forget that week 15 and 16 and 17 are all basically DFS weeks for us. Week 15 and 16 aren't as extreme because, you're still in the small pod. But week 17 is definitely just like pure kind of like big DFS contest where you kind of want your team set up to thrive in that situation. I took Paris Campbell over T.Y. Hilton just because I don't have as much Paris Campbell as T.Y. Hilton, and I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other on those guys. Also nice that Paris Campbell is a comeback in a game stack week 17 for, if I end up with Carr and Henry Ruggs. Because Las Vegas plays Indy week 17. So, guys, I'm kind of looking at for our next pick Alex Madison, Brian Edwards, tight end of some sort. Looking at Brian Edwards just to set up that stack, but I don't think we really need to get him, and I don't think that he'll be available. So, wide receiver is getting pretty thin, and there's still like, I don't know, 5 guys that I like a decent amount, 6. So I don't think that we could maybe get shut out on those dudes. And might be a good round to not take wide receiver if that happens. Let's take a look at quarterback because quarterback just goes like so randomly different in these drafts. There's some drafts where like all of a sudden you're about in this round and like everyone has taken a ton of quarterbacks and you're like, what the frig is going on? This doesn't look like one of those drafts, so I'm not really worried about it. Yeah, we're getting pretty low on wide receivers that interest me for this round. 3, 4, maybe 5 I would consider. Madison goes off. That's really bad for us. Still do have interest in probably these top 3 guys. David Johnson's like pretty unexciting, but somebody's going to catch a ton of dump offs on that team, and it's more likely to be him than Philip Lindsay, and it's more likely to be him than Mark Ingram, I think, at this point. So, not that Mark Ingram is a bad receiving running back, but I think David Johnson is a better receiving running back. Do you think of these 3 guys, Singletary probably has the most upside because if Moss gets hurt, which Moss has been doing a lot of that throughout his college and pro careers, that Singletary has the highest upside of this grouping. So we'll definitely be taking one of these 3 running backs. Prefer Singletary, I think. Naheem Hines had such a good year last year. But Phillip Rivers is gone. I mean, he did have 40 and 60 catches without that. I just don't think that he has the upside with injury that Singletary has. So let's take Singletary. See if any of the wide receivers that didn't discuss this made it just yes. So I do like Perryman a decent amount. So I'm just going to scoot over here, see if I think I can get a tight end I don't hate. I'd kind of be fine with any tight end down to Austin Hooper to go with Hawkinson. So I'm going to gamble that we get one back of Austin Hooper or better. If Perryman wouldn't have been there, I would have picked a tight end. So basically, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tight ends on the board where we would like to get one of them. If not, I do have a couple of tricks up my sleeve at tight end. I do like Dan Arnold quite a bit. Guy is like massively athletic. I'm a Saints fan, so I kind of got to see him. He's been on my radar a little longer than most people's radars, and that guy made some freaking plays. Like, he's not making a ton of them for you, but he has looked pretty nice. He was in that Cardinals offense that basically doesn't use a tight end, and he still ended up with like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, I believe, last year. So if this Panthers offense wants to use a tight end more, yeah, he ended up with 438 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that was on a team that like doesn't use tight ends, so that's why I like Dan Arnold quite a bit. Definitely not taking another running back until the last 2 rounds, so we just don't need to have them lit up. I would have preferred getting Madison to Devin Singletary for sure, but I mean, Melvin Gordon is a very unexciting pick. But I mean, also like he's one of those guys that at his price, like what if he just stays as the 1A for the whole year? I know people like got like nuts about, well, Javonte looks like he's a starting running back at OTAs. Well, I mean, Melvin Gordon wasn't there, so of course Javonte looked like the starting running back. He was taking all the reps at the ones, and he's a good player. So, and I mean, if you were asking me who are you taking higher, I'm taking Javonte Williams a hell of a lot higher than Melvin Gordon. But I think that these people that are just removing Melvin Gordon from their player pool are kind of ridiculous, especially since like it's a lot of the 0 RB people that are eliminating Melvin Gordon from their player pool when he's kind of exactly what you're looking for when you draft 0 RB. Give me a running back in round 11 that could start as the 1A and then just be the 1A for the whole year and has proven touchdown upside, double-digit touchdown upside in multiple years. Like, isn't that what you're looking for when you decide I'm going to draft 0 RB? Like, just Melvin Gordon versus Devin Singletary. I'd much rather have Melvin Gordon. He goes a lot higher, so that's a bad example, but I was using it because a lot of these 0 RB drafters love Devin Singletary and will not draft Melvin Gordon no matter what round he's available in. Quarterback is probably something we need to at least consider at our next pick, but not necessarily something we have to pick. I wouldn't mind reaching for Carr a little bit and then trying to snap up Renfro in the last round and have a little Carr, Renfro, and what's his face? Ruggs stack. I have just such an absurd amount of Derek Carr. I think that their defense is going to be really bad. I think you're going to get a ton of passing game scripts for Carr. 6 picks away. We need 4 of them to not be tight ends. I think 2 of them will be tight ends. As long as 4 are not tight ends, we'll be okay. There's one of the ones we expected to. Then I suspect Goulash will take Cole Kmet. And I would probably take Austin Hooper over Blake Jarwin in this build. I would prefer Jarwin in a 3 tight end build because I think he has higher upside. In 2 tight end builds, I would prefer Hooper just because he's like safer. Don't really know where Jarwin's at with the injury, and Dalton Schultz could end up eating into his workload a little bit. So, wow, are we really to the bottom of the barrel of wide receivers that much? Okay, there's guys I would take over Dwayne Eskridge, but I do get that pick. Al Samilo takes the pick, is up. Everett and Gronk with the same bye weeks as well. Not loving his team, not going to lie. Oof. Taking KJ Hamler around 15. Brutal. Tony, I love. It's a pick. Zach Wilson off the board, so we got really lucky to get Cole Kmet here, I think. Definitely only need to take 2 tight ends now. Do we take Carr above ADP? We don't really have any stack pieces that go with Daniel Jones. I do love that Carr has that Dallas matchup, so yeah. I feel like with the quarterbacks on the board too shallow, it's just too dangerous to not take one here. Like, as much as I want to save draft capital after using Kyler Murray, it's round 16, so that's fine. We will only be making 2 more picks. One I think will be a running back, and one will be a wide receiver. If there's absolutely no running backs that we want whatsoever, then we can take 2 wide receivers. I am hoping for Renfro or Nico Collins or Denzel Mims or Travis Fulgham. I'm still have Mims in my player pool despite the bad reports from OTAs. I think it's just too early to take him out of your player pool entirely. I said before, I do have like some feelings like last year I had about T. Higgins at this time of the year when people were like kind of hyped about Auden Tate and we're still thinking AJ Green was the thing. Not very many people, but there were people out there that were still thinking AJ Green was the thing, and then Boyd, and you were able to get T. Higgins, down in these round 16 or so last year. So I had a ton of T. Higgins, and that for sure paid off. I get sort of a similar feeling from Mims. Like, I don't think his upside is as high as T. Higgins, so don't hear what I'm not saying, but I mean, we've got Corey Davis who's already had an AC sprain. Corey Davis has already shown his ceiling is like whatever. We have Elijah Moore who looks fantastic so far in camp, but it is only camp. We have Crowder, who they basically like threatened to cut if he wouldn't take less money, and they didn't even need the money, so it was purely like, buddy, you're overpaid, as opposed to, wow, we're in this cap situation, we need to take you to take less money. They were more just like, nah, dude, you are not worth this much money, so take less or you're getting the boot. So because of that reasons, like I do think Mims should still be in your player pool. As far as running back goes, we have interest in James White a bit, Ty Johnson, Jerick McKinnon, tiny bit in the Miami guys, Malcolm Brown and Salvin Ahmed. Was nice to get the Rondell and Hopkins pairing together to go with Kyler. I don't really see anybody taking shots on Mac Jones. I think that might be a little bit of a mistake for people. I don't have too much Mac Jones myself, but basically when I've been in a desperate situation where I got screwed on QB3 and I desperately need a QB3, I'd rather take a shot on Mac Jones than Cam Newton. I just think that Mac Jones is going to get that job fairly early in the year, and then week 17 they play the Jaguars, who could be like completely out of it and given up and going to cold New England week 17. I could see that game being kind of a beatdown. Wow, Dan Arnold in round 17. I haven't seen that before. Tight end must be pretty thin. Definitely was pretty excited to get Cole Kmet 11 picks after ADP. I think that really made our Perryman pick pay off. Do you think we have a decent amount of upside in these 4 picks right here? That I'm a little more tempted to take like a safer guy like a Renfro over a Mims that will at least be like decent. Take both and just not take another running back. I really like the upside of like Jerick McKinnon in this Chiefs offense catching passes. This guy's had 5 and 6 touchdowns the last 2 years, or his last 2 years. I guess that 2017 was ages ago. He did have 6 touchdowns last year, 30 catches. Let's take Jerick. A last round at Mims or a Renfro to pair with Derek Carr. This is like a tie. I'm going to take Renfro this time. I think with John Brown being like the 4th wide receiver now, or not numbers wise, but one of the 4 wide receivers on that team, as opposed to the 4th wide receiver, that his health has been like so crappy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just the other 3 guys real fast. And if it is the other 3 guys, I think Renfro will be quite good. If I didn't have Derek Carr, I think I would have just taken Mims with that pick and taken the higher upside. This is like a whole grouping of just like upside, Waddle, it's Paris Campbell of just like upside wide receivers. So felt a little less necessary. So let's rate our position groups and get out of this one. So give us an A minus at quarterback. Probably like an A minus or B plus at running back. Wide receiver, say another A minus or B plus, and tight end probably like a B. I don't really like if Hawkinson doesn't like hit his ceiling, then this tight end group is not going to be great. But if Hawkinson does hit his ceiling, then tight end group will be very, very decent. Also, if Jimmy Graham somehow gets the frig off the Bears, that would be nice. But I don't think that's going to happen. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and good luck in your drafts.